This is the BreadWinner Podcast, hosted by entrepreneur, influencer, and sales wolf, Tyler Harris, bringing you the insights from the most successful forward-thinking entrepreneurs and influencers, so that you can rise to the top and make more dough.
Now, let's get into the show.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the BreadWinner Podcast. I am your host, Tyler Harris, and we have got a returning guest today, Mr. Kolby K. And last time, if you guys watched the last episode, we kind of give you a little bit of background on Kolby and his burrito stealing days and kind of went through his history and evolution. But we kind of came to the end point, which was really beginning to talk about branding and where that's where he is an expert in. And what we wanted to do on this podcast is really get a little bit more tactical and provide some strategies that you guys can implement that are either looking to start building a personal brand or are building a personal brand but want to really enhance the actions that you're putting in each day to get the best bang for your buck and really be able to frame that for you so that you'll be able to actually go out and make a difference and make more money ultimately. And so that's what I have seen is probably what Kolby is absolutely best at, is just creating a personal brand all around making an impact and providing value. And he's going to frame it in an interesting way and in a unique way that I think will provide a ton of value. So I don't want to talk too much. I'll let Kolby jump right into it and we'll just kind of go back and forth on this. But Kolby, glad to have you again, man.
Brother, dude, I have to say, and I didn't do this last time, and I apologize. You know, I'm so honored to be on the show, and anytime I can get in front of a new audience, and if just one person's life's impacted, for me, it's absolutely worth it, man. So first, let me start there. I'm humbled and grateful for the opportunity to do the first show, and now to be back as the second. So thank you so much.
Hey, and this is the first time we've ever brought anybody back on, so it's a big deal.
I love it, dude. Let's not let him down. Hey, so you and I were talking
Yes.
in order to kind of frame this up. There's a couple things. What I really like to do is I don't like to talk in theory. I like to talk in tactical things that people can go and do something with.
Yep.
Right. So we talked about, your audience, whether you are in the insurance business, whether you're a broker, whether you're an independent agent, whether you're in some kind of other business. Mm-hmm. What does it mean to have a personal brand and a business brand? And then one of the questions I get asked a lot is there a difference? What do you think? Is there a difference between personal brand and business brand?
I think that they overlap. And I think that based on I think for me, they are very separated, but that's because of my specific niche that I serve. But I think most people, there needs to be an overlap between those two things.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it is. There's kind of an overlap on how much I want to share and how comfortable I am sharing, right? Because I do get that question a lot. So for the listeners, we're going to go through a couple different things. And the way that I like to break this down is the process we're going to talk about is called digital distribution. The landscape has changed. The tools are different. The internet is the equalizer. There's never been a more opportune time to get your name out, your brand out, and to either start a side hustle and make some additional capital or to drive more revenue out of your current business. Okay. So people that are listening, this will work in two facets. This will work for if you're a business owner or entrepreneur, this works for you today. Okay. If you are trying to start a side hustle and make some additional cash, this will work for you also. So the process is kind of the same. It's how you implement the strategy that makes the most sense.
Got it.
So when we look at this, I start everywhere with an offer, and I'll take this in two directions. From an offer perspective, I build it backwards. At the end of the day, we're trying to drive some revenue, but we're also trying to build a name out of good faith and providing value into the marketplaces we serve. So a value ladder would start something like this, or excuse me, an offer ladder would start something like this. There's physical products, there's online products, there's courses, there are one-on-one coaching, one-to-many coaching, live events, and then the last one would be, like, say, private groups where you charge maybe $49 a month to be part of my online monthly community. You get a couple 100,000 people in there. You can see how that starts to scale. That's one side of where I start. Okay, so let's pretend you're an entrepreneur first, and then I'm going to say if you want to build a side hustle, how we'll use the same framework. Okay. So when you look at that, what is it that you're selling? Are you selling a service? Are you selling some one-on-one time? Are you selling a series of online courses? Whatever that is, let's start there. And then if you go back to the last episode we did, there's an equation that helped me get to 10 million impressions last year. And when I say impressions, although across my social media profiles I only have a little over 10,000 followers, or 30,000 followers, that's impressions are likes, shares, follows, comments. That is an amalgamated kind of grouping of impressions. That's important to me because I want engagement. I don't want 10 million followers where nobody says anything. Yep. I would like to have a group of people that are interacting with my content. That's where the value is.
Hey, Kolby, where are you pulling that information from for those that want to go check and be like, dang, how many impressions did I have last year?
So what I do is you want to talk about a business. If somebody wants to start this business, I will pay a subscription service for it. Right now it's manual, dude. Yeah. So what I do is I do a sum of averages, then I do outliers. Yeah. So the platforms I'm on, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. Yep. Those are the four. And then Twitter, I do some stuff on Twitter. So I take those 4 profiles, and then what I'll do is I'll go over averages. If I do 3 to 4 videos a day, my average video view is 1,000 to 3,000. Great. Yep. How many videos am I posting? I do the sum average there. Then I go through my outliers, like the videos that get 20, 30,000 views. Yep. How many of those do I have? And then literally I just go platform for platform, month by month. It takes me a couple hours to get it all done.
Yeah, I bet.
Right? It's directionally correct. It puts me in that. If it's a sum of averages plus the outliers, give me the averages.
Yep. So you'll have a couple of those Sean Whalen outliers in there, and it just skews everything.
Dude, I don't know. I got to tell you, man, I was just talking to him yesterday, and I was just saying, dude, you're such a dick. He's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, you know what? Out of anything I've ever seen, I've never seen – here's the number that I was most impressed with is he did a video about some – he did a video. The video got – I think at this point it's probably 46 million views. Yep. It was the shares that got me. It was like 1.8 million people shared that video.
Yep.
I've never seen anything like it. I've seen views that high. I've never seen shares that high.
It's insanity.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. So for me, what I've come up with is it's an equation, and I call it quality content plus consistency equals value. Okay, so we know that there are 5 major platforms that you should be playing on if you want to be relevant. We could argue about some of the specialty things, but you've got Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, then if you want to say Twitter or not. Those are the 5 major kind of categories. You've got Vero as an up-and-comer. Mm-hmm. You've got Pinterest if you're into images. There are some other outliers that you can get into.
Sure.
So math would say I should be on each of those platforms between 2 and 5 times per day. Okay. So if I say there are 5 and I need to be on each of them 5 times a day, does that mean you should be creating 25 pieces of content a day?
Absolutely.
Yes. The answer is yes. Okay, so if I look at that, it's like, well, I've got a day job. I've got a family. I'm working 60 hours a week. Like, I don't have the time to create it. The answer to that, the actual antidote to that is you don't not have a time to create. You have to create it. There's not if you're spending any time on sales and marketing, this is part of the sales and marketing. So when you look at that equation and I look at my offer, here's where things start to translate. It starts with what I call multi-purposing a piece of content. I will take a 5-minute video. So every day I do a series, I'll do 3 to 4 videos a day. It starts with quality content. It can't be just pictures of what you ate. You need to be making sure that you're delivering value into the niche that you're serving consistently. Don't be a copycat. Be honest and do you. Those are the ground rules. And I'll pick up my phone. I start a video. I will film 1 5-minute video. If there's something long I want to say, let's say it's 7 minutes.
Okay.
I have 1 video asset. I will then take that asset and I will translate that into 4 other categories, meaning I have the raw video. I'll go to a website called rev.com, R-E-V as in Victor.com. Yep. It's a transcription service. I send them a link to my video. They will transcribe that video to me in a Word document. It's like less than $1 a minute. Like it's super cost effective and fast. They turn those videos around within 20, 30 minutes, within a day at the most. Now I've got a Word document. I go into either there's a free audio program called Odyssey for your PC, or if you have a Mac, the iMovie program. I take that video, I dump it in, and I separate the audio and save the audio as its own file. Now I've got a video, I've got long-form content, I've got the text of my video, and I've got the audio. This is where the magic starts to happen. So in 1 5 to 7 minute video, what I will do is I go into 3 separate segments of areas for what I call digital distribution. I take the long form content of the text, I reformat that. Now that becomes a blog post on my website. 1 to 3 blog posts, depending on how many words I've spoken. Okay. It becomes long form content on my Facebook page, 1 to 2 to 3 possible posts on my Facebook page, and then 1 on my LinkedIn. So that 1 long form content of words that come back, I can take that document. I've now sliced that up into possibly 5 pieces of written content that can go on my platforms.
Hey, Kolby, real quick, with Rev, how accurate are you seeing that transcription?
99%.
Is it? Okay.
Oh,
awesome.
Dude, it's so good. Okay. I send over hours and hours of content like weekly, and it's right on.
Okay.
It's a formatting thing, dude. Like you just get back a bunch of paragraphs.
Yep.
So you have to go through and weed through it. Spelling is usually really on.
Yeah.
They catch most of it.
Okay.
They catch most of it. And my videos are outside. I've got distractions, and they seem to do pretty well. That's a great question.
Okay, cool.
So now I've got my long form content. I've got some long form blogs that I'm putting out. I've got I'll do an email too. So I do an email blast once a week. I have close to 11,000 people on my email list. I highly recommend that you're capturing email outside your social media for distribution. I have a 60% open rate on my emails, dude. I'm in there every single week providing value. I'm not selling all the time. I'm value.
Where are you getting the most opt-ins on your emails?
It depends, dude. I'm running 5 or 6 campaigns every week, depending on what I'm talking about, right? I'm giving away a ton of free stuff, a free white paper, an ebook, which we could talk about creating ebooks and stuff here in a minute. So I've got so you take that one video, I sliced it up into, I've got my video, my audio, my long form text. In that long form text, without a doubt, I'm going to have 5 to 10 quotes that stand out for me. Mm-hmm. I go in and I will use either Word Swag on Instagram, which is a text app that I can put on top of images, Word Swag, SWAG, and I'll create 10 quote cards, let's say 5 to 10 quote cards based on things I said in that one video. Now let's look at it. I've got 5 pieces of content, like long form content. I've got 10 pieces of quote card. I've got the audio that I can slice into 1 to 3 assets for either a podcast or micro bursts. And then I've got my video. If my video is really good, I might be able to slice one video into 1 to 2 to 3 different assets. Mm-hmm. That one 5 to 7 minute video just became 15 assets in one gyration. Now, that's how you get the most out of one recording. So now I've got 15 assets out of one 5-minute session. Okay. Now it's, where do I distribute that? Because you told me there were 5 platforms I need to be on: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Yep. Okay. So now I've got those 5 profiles. Now I can use an auto scheduling tool like a Hootsuite, which now does Instagram, or a Sprout Social. There are some questions about Facebook content being, if it's not organic and it's coming through a third party, how it ranks. But at least get yourself in a system of posting, putting your content in a tool instead of sitting down and writing a bunch of stuff every single day. You can automate that sequence. Sure. I go through social media distribution. I go through my website for the blog as well as my podcast. And then I go through my email distribution list for long form weekly content on a free training, a video, the long form post on one of the videos I've done. That is how you take literally one 5 to 7 minute video, get 15 assets, and those are the areas that you start to distribute. Quality content, consistency now is the next piece. I'm doing that every day. So you're seeing 5 to 6 pieces of content across all my platforms every single day. And to put the benchmark up there, I've done almost 4,000 videos in 3 years. So like that's you need to start to, when you start to look at scale, those are the numbers that I'm doing, and I think I could be doing more. Now you start to look at, back to where we started, is my offer. Yep. I go through an email sequence where I will do, for those of you who are using email, this is a 6-figure email hack for you. So if you've got an email list that's active and you're having a dialogue with them, what I will do is I will do 3 of these videos we're talking about where I'm actually training on something in my industry. Maybe it's what are the top 3 things I need to know about a term life and policy versus whatever. Yep. What are the changes in healthcare statutes mean to Arkansas? What are the whatever, how to shoot 3-pointers? Whatever your expertise is, what I'll do is I'll film 3 videos that are giving out training and as much information as I can to my audience. And I'll do a 6 email sequence. First email. In this free video training, you're going to get the outline on how to best structure your insurance policy to make sure that your customers are most whatever it is. Yep. 3 days later, you're not selling anything. 3 days later, I do another video. Here's part 2 of the free training that I'm providing, and it's going to cover the next stage of this insurance thing that's important to you. 3 days later, I do another one. And I do one every 3 days until I get to the 4th email, to where I'm giving away literally almost 25 to 50 minutes of free training based on my industry experience. I'm just giving it away. I'm not asking for anything. On that 4th email, now I start to talk about the offer that we started with. Do you have a course? Do you have a website? Are you looking to get some one-on-one coaching time? Are you looking to just get a quote in the system? Are you looking for some consultations? What is it? On that 4th email, I send that out 3 days after my 3rd email. It goes into a sequence now. These go one after another, each day after day. That next one is, I hope you've enjoyed my free training on how to maximize the insurance changes that have happened in your state. Of course, I can't fit all of this amazing material into one video or even a Facebook post. But what I've done is I've created an online community where I've got other like-minded people that want to know more about the insurance, or other agents that are trying to scale. If you click down below, you can go to my landing page that actually tells you more about this online community, and I'd like to invite you as my guest. Maybe that online community is your continuity program. Maybe instead of an online community, maybe it's an ebook that you're selling. Maybe it's a chance to get a consultation. But that's your drive call to action to get into your offer.
Yep.
Next day, I do the same thing. I'm giving another 5-minute training away. I keep it condensed. I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, it's hard for me to pack all this value into these quick little vignettes. What I would like to do is invite you over to learn more here with the call to action button in the email. Then I send one more at the end of the next day, doing the same thing where I'm driving those last 3 emails towards providing more value that's surrounding my offer. In that, at the end of that 6 email sequence, if they either opt out, which is fine because I want people in my email list that are active, or they don't do anything. If they don't do anything, I just put them right back into my weekly email newsletter where I'm just continually sharing weekly value kind of tidbits. So when you start to look at that, that's from the offer to creating your online personality to creating assets and then email sequencing that drive back to that offer. Creating your personal brand is in that digital distribution. It's showing up every single day, adding value across multiple platforms and doing it daily.
So quick question for you, and that was incredible. People, if you did not just take notes during that, then you need to go back, hit rewind, start it again, and start taking some notes, because that was about that was a 6-figure lesson in about 8 minutes. So
I'll tell you what we could do. I've got a couple of these already recorded where I do that outline. I do that outline for our huge corporate clients that are spending 6 figures with us to help automate some of this stuff.
Absolutely.
I will do a video just for your crew where I'll whiteboard that, or if I have a previous one, I'll give you a link to where people can visually see what I'm talking about.
That would be awesome. Quick question for you. So in regards to the offer, when someone is using this for a side hustle or something that they are beginning and doesn't really know what that first offer should be, what are your thoughts on how they come to that conclusion? If, let's just say, again, financial services. So I'm a financial advisor. That's my full-time career. On the side, I want to start coaching, let's just say, and financial planning and things like that. So how do I decide what the best product is for me to get started with?
Love it. Love it. That's a great question, man. So for those of you that are looking to start a side hustle based on your expertise, pay attention, because we're going to use some of the same framework, but what I'm going to help you do is build content that helps you build that offer. So a couple things. In the financial industries, you have to be really, really careful based on Sarbanes-Oxley and what you can offer as an independent service. If you are in the financial services, it's a no-no, because a prime example, a good friend of mine is an executive at Vanguard Financial. Him and I talk all the time about things, and he is a brilliant mind when it comes to understanding, like, setting up trusts and how the financial system works. You know, I can't pay him to come teach me that stuff, and he can't publicly do it because of the laws, the laws he's governed to. So what I would highly recommend is, if you are in an institution that is governed by government regulations, do not risk your job to do a side hustle in the same industry unless you've got clarity on what the laws are in the jurisdictions you play. Healthcare is the same way, financial services, legal. Be smart about it. So first, what I say is understand that. Go talk to your HR person.
Yep.
Schedule some time. Let them know, hey, listen, I'm doing some coaching in my local area. I want to educate people more about this. Is it a violation if I do that as a representation of the company on my own time, but I'm just representing me? Clear that first. So that's my disclaimer because I don't want anybody to get in trouble or get fired.
That's huge. And actually, right as I said financial services on the outgo, I was like, crap, because I went through that issue myself. I was a financial advisor and I got put under FINRA investigation for what they called selling away, which was representing something that the firm didn't approve of. And it was it was a big deal. But the majority of financial services companies have a very strict outside activities statute in their contract that you have to, at the very least, report what you're doing outside. But a lot of times there's going to be an issue there. So thank you for saying that. Definitely.
Well, let's take it like this though.
Yep.
Every single one of your listeners, every one of you that's listening right now, you have a skill set. You have you got a skill set. You've got a talent, and you have a passion. All three of those might not be the same thing, but I guarantee each of you have something that falls in those categories.
Yep.
Okay, so what I highly recommend you do is get a pencil and a piece of paper out or a way to take notes. I want you to write a list of the things that you love to do, like you absolutely love to do. Is it writing? Is it video editing? Is it market analysis? Whatever you really, really like to do. And then in the next column, I want you to make a list of the things that you're naturally talented at. You might not be naturally gifted at anything. Like me, I'd say outside of communications and being able, I have a lot of energy. I don't know that I'm not naturally gifted in anything. I just have to work really hard. So find out what you're naturally talented at. And then in the last piece, where you look at, here's what I like to do, here's what I'm good at, start to jot down some ideas that come to mind on some areas you'd like to focus in, right? Doing that, that's where you start the exercise. Okay. Some areas of expertise and shit that you like to do that you're passionate about. You have to start there. Otherwise, if you're like, here's an itch for me to go make money, you won't have longevity in it. You want to look at something that you can put some time and energy into, right?
Especially if it's going to be something that you're doing on the side, which would be on top of your full-time career.
You hit it right on the head. It's additional time that I'm not with my family. It's not when I'm with my work, and it's not when I'm not taking care of myself. So it's additional time that you have to invest. You better like it. Yeah. So for me, the way that I would say, okay, what do I want to sell? Like, I want to make a little bit of money. How do I do it? So what I do is when I go through that exercise, and let's say I've used this example a couple times, is a basketball analogy. Let's say I'm an expert three-point shooter. So what are the three? Once I come down with my list of here's what I really want to talk about, or I want to teach, or I want to educate people on. Information products are the easiest way to get to market, to build an offer, to start to gain some revenue right away, and then you can build that into bigger. Because remember that your offer, the offer ladder is physical product, online product, coach courses, like you want to do a series of courses, one-on-one coaching, one-to-many coaching, live events, or a community page where they pay a monthly subscription to be in it. What I'm talking about will be great for creating an information product, or creating a course, or creating that group to get people to pay you a monthly retainer to be part of your community. So what I'll do now is, whatever that one thing was that I wrote down that I'm really passionate about, that I've got some skills in, what are the three basic principles that follow that skill set that I have to know? In basketball, if I'm the best three-point shooter, let's say, that's what I'm passionate about is basketball. I need to know how to dribble, I need to know how to box out, and I need to know how to shoot. Okay? Sure. So if those are the three basic principles I need to know, how do I translate that into something that's of a service? I pick up my phone. I write down my key thing for shooting three-pointers. What are the three attributes underneath it that everyone needs to know that wants to be a good three-point shooter? The three things we just covered. Then I pick up my phone and I film a video on the first subject, 5 to 7 minutes or 7 to 12 minutes. Literally, I don't care how many takes. Just do one. Don't make it a science project. And I will film myself. Here are the 10 fundamental things you need to know about dribbling that leads into being the best three-point shooter in your city league. Here's the right hand, the left hand, have somebody help hold it for you. Buy a stand on Amazon. Film, 7 to 12 minutes. Then you go to the next thing. What's the second attribute? I need to know how to square up. What are the top 3 things I need to know about squaring up? It's a 7 to 12 minute video. And then the last piece, what's the last piece? Shooting. What are the 3 fundamental things I need to know about shooting the perfect three-pointer to kick ass in my city league? Again, I'm going to film that 7 to 12 minute video. I take those videos. I send those videos over to rev.com. I get it all translated back. I go to HubSpot. Just Google HubSpot, HUBSPOT, ebook templates, free ebook templates. I take my images, I formatted it myself because, again, it's a side hustle. I don't want to spend a bunch of money on it, but I want to make some money doing it.
Yeah.
I then will take all of that information, put chapters together. I'll have that's a good 45-page document or how-to manual that now I can use either as a lead magnet to give away to get an email, or I can sell that as an information product for $9.99 or $19.99 or whatever the value is you think you're able to provide based on your skill set, your expertise, and something that you're passionate about. That's an easy way to establish yourself as a subject matter expert. Start to use those videos now, as we talked about, in your newsletters. Start a newsletter that's based on shooting three-pointers. Get people to sign up for it. Yeah. On your newsletter content, on your social media distribution, as well as what's the last one that I missed? A website, if you wanted to create a custom website that you drive people to. That's kind of the fundamental basics. Now you can take that into a group. I'm going to start an online community that's $29.99, and every week I'm going to be in here answering questions about three-pointers, and other three-point experts are going to come and join me. And Kolby and Tyler are going to have a one-on-one game, whatever. Like, we're going to have that in the group. It's $29 a month.
Yeah.
You start to scale from there. Now maybe you get one-on-one coaching clients from that. That's the way you start to kind of scale up an idea based on what you're passionate about into 4 or 5 different things you can use to drive revenue.
So as you kind of unpack that, people can quickly and easily see why you have to be passionate about the thing that you're doing this, because this is going to take time. You're going to be investing a lot of energy into this subject. So if you're not passionate about it, you're not going to be able to get that message across in a way that people are going to want to receive it. But the thing that I love about this is that everything that you just said, like, that can be implemented in 24 hours. I mean, probably within 48, 72 hours can be completed. If someone takes massive action, you can have a product that's ready to go to market tomorrow, literally, which is incredible. So now once they've got that process they've got the offer, they've now built the assets around it, and they are now putting it online. So all that strategy that you went through, so you've got all the content distribution that you went through. What are some of the key analytics or some of the key things that they need to go back and look at to see if what they're doing is working once they've done this for a certain period of time?
Sales.
That's
sales. That's it. Sales.
Yep.
Like, how much did you sell? Nothing else matters outside of sales.
Got it.
Right? Like, if you're trying to sell something, measure sales. Like, people get caught up in the numbers of, how much money do you spend to capture leads? Like, you can look at that kind of stuff. The bigger question that most people will ask once they go through this exercise is, where do I get people? Like, where do I get people? Like, where are the people? Right? Where can I get people to come and engage? Because inside of my group of, like, my sphere of influence, most people's sphere of influence isn't going to be as big as ours, right? They're just starting out. So, like, where do I find those people? There is a podcast I highly recommend that you listen to. If you want to put this in the show notes, dude, it'd be very helpful.
Absolutely.
It's Tim Ferriss and Noah Kagan. It's Kagan. Okay. He was employee like 15 at Facebook and went on to start Sumo Me. He does an interview inside that process that's how do you build a newsletter from, like, an idea. So essentially, if we stay with the three-pointer, let's say we stay with the three-pointer analogy, where is the community of people that love to shoot free three-pointers or learn more about basketball? I start with my Facebook page. I start with I go into groups that are in Facebook, and what you do is you don't end up selling anything. It's literally I'm starting a weekly newsletter that's going to be focused on three-pointers. Here's the value that it brings. Here's the frequency of it. If you are interested in this, I would love to add you to our weekly newsletter. And it's hand-to-hand combat, dude. I'm shooting DMs on Instagram. I'm going under basketball handles, anybody with basketball hashtags, and I'm shooting them a DM. Hey, I'd love to have you involved. Got a newsletter. Here's what it's going to be. We're going to be providing a ton of value. Like, what does that look like? And find people that will give you emails to opt into an email newsletter, or getting them to go to your Facebook page and then promote on your Facebook page. It's hand-to-hand combat, dude. Yeah. I did that. I built a 6-figure supplement business doing that same thing, where I spent 2 years getting blood tests every 30 days on stress management and cortisol management, and started a newsletter on stress management for high performers, and built up that's how come my newsletter or my email database is as big as it is I went through my LinkedIn, because I was a business professional focused on business professionals that were stressed, and literally emailed one by one 4,000 contacts instead of spamming them. Wow. And that's how I started my newsletter. And then the follow-up to that, you'll hear in Noah's kind of antidotes as to how he does it. I do a follow-up sequence that says, what are the top 3 things you'd like to know about being a better 3-point shooter? Because there's stuff there that people will tell you that you forgot to ask or you don't know. Those become your next video assets, right? So it just continually puts the pipeline together of material. Find a group of people. Like, here's the key to business, dude. Find a group of people with a problem.
Yep.
Create a product or a solution that solves that problem. Validate that your product or solution solves the problem and that people will pay for it. That bottom part, people got to pay for it.
Yep.
And then the last piece is sell your face off. That's every business, dude, since Eve sold Adam the apple to Apple computers, dude. That's every business ever. Like, that's just the structure of it. So you need to find out where the people are that have a niche for the problem you're trying to solve based on this passion that you're bringing to market.
Man, that's
and don't
awesome.
sell. Do not sell. You and I talked about this at midnight your time last night, brother.
Yep.
When there is the art of first off, do not be afraid to sell. Selling is not a bad thing.
Sure.
It's upfront. Don't just start selling stuff that people don't know who you are.
Yep.
For me, it's there is an art, there is a finesse, and there is a science behind the art of reciprocity, where I have given you so much value that when it's time to buy something, I buy it out of necessity because that's what I think the next thing is, not because you're selling me. I buy. I'm not sold. That is the art.
Well, which in your strategy with your 6 steps with the emails, that value that you brought to them in those videos, in that content, like, that was the value. I mean, I used to do this when I was a financial advisor. I would literally go out and knock on doors. And so I would knock on doors and meet somebody. Hey, my name is Tyler Harris with so-and-so advising firm down the road, just out doing some good old fashioned advertising. Then I would get to know them, start calling them. What would happen next is I would get their portfolios and I'd be able to actually see what they had. And then literally every third day, I would just find some stock, some mutual fund, some bond that they had. And I would just look up random news articles on those things. And I would call them and say, hey, sir, ma'am, I'm sure your advisor's already called to tell you about this, but I just wanted to make sure you were aware that Apple stock that you have, this just happened. It didn't even have to be that important. It was just the fact that I thought of them to call them and that I always threw that little, I'm sure your advisor already called and told you about this. About the 3rd or 4th time you do that, they're like, well, crap.
My advisor's
no,
not
they
calling
didn't.
me.
I haven't talked to them this entire time. And you're
I
the one
love
that's
it.
provided me all this advice. And so why don't you handle all my investments? I'm like, if that's what you think is best.
You're
But
like, you know what? I guess I can do it. I would be honored. You know, I love it. I hope your listeners paid attention to that because that's brilliant.
But it's exactly what you just said with those emails, that it is the jab, and then you're coming with the right hook. But when you're coming with the right hook, it doesn't even feel like it because they're just ready. That's just it's the next step that makes sense in the scenario for them to do that. Obviously, I'm going to pay for whatever comes next because I've already gotten so much disproportionate value from you. So I love that.
Well, the answer where people get this confused, man, is it's the jab right hook analogy is it's the give, and then it's the opportunity to ask for reciprocation for value, for cash for value, right? It's not the sell me something. It's not the right to see. You don't have. There's no entitlement here. You're not owed anything. It's you need to outperform what their expectations are by providing so much value that by that 3rd or 4th time you have the opportunity to ask for some the highest value or the highest level of flattery you'll ever get is somebody giving you their hard-earned money for something you've built.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's nothing that's higher than that in the value chain of people saying, hey, I value what you've done.
Man, let's talk real quick about this. You start putting yourself out there, building this personal brand. You're starting this process that you just went through, and you've got an offer that you're trying to get out there. Let's go through a little bit for someone that's first going to be starting out and doing this, about some of those emotions that'll happen as they're starting to build a personal brand. That period of time where it's their mom and their sister that are the only ones that are getting on their Facebook lives at 8:00 at night, and then they've got their friends that are making fun of them because now they're putting themselves out there for the first time as something that they've never seen before, and then they start to build a little bit of traction. Can you talk a little bit about that, kind of in your experience, and the fact that patience being key in that, and when you're actually building something, man? Because I think that's most important for people that are looking at trying and that are looking at putting effort into something that are going to want to see results, but to realize that it takes time to build a brand.
Well, I think there's a couple things here, man, you hit on. There is the patience and the long game, which is really hard, and I'm not good at it. Like, I hate patience, but it's just, it's a necessity. Yeah. You do need to see some of the small wins as you start to go to keep you getting the momentum. I think that's important. And small wins would be, did I get the videos done? Yeah. Did I get the transcription service? Did I get the ebook created? Like, don't forget you have to love parts of the process. Otherwise, like, you miss that and go to how much money did I make? And, don't get confused when I said that you have to measure. That's the equalizer. It's like, how much money did I make based on the effort I put in? Yeah. That is a major variable that you need to be looking at. But along the way, if you lose track of the process, you're going to drop out because you're not going to feel like you've done enough. Yeah. That's a balance for me, but you need to make sure that you're measuring that across the way that you see yourself hitting small milestones to get the momentum. That's one. The other piece is, I use the analogy a lot. If you know anybody that's been a personal trainer, or maybe your listeners, where you woke up one day and you were like, I need to change my diet. I want to go to the gym. And you got serious about it, but your significant other was not on that same playing field. So you start going to the gym 5 days a week, you got a trainer, got all ripped, you feel good, you're in your bikini, you're looking hot, but your boyfriend or girlfriend didn't come along on the journey. What happens in those scenarios? Those relationships break apart because the other people didn't come with them. So before I dive into the science on that, what's extremely important is you bring some of your loved ones along with you, at least share bits and pieces. They might not get your vision, they might not understand it fully, but engulf them in your evolution, because if you don't, you're going to wake up one day and they're gone, or they'll leave on their own. Because what happens is you start to evolve, you're evolving, and as you're evolving, you want to make sure that the people that are closest to you have an opportunity to join you. They're not always going to do that. What'll happen is the biggest naysayers who don't want to make changes in their life are going to tell you that's stupid. Why would you do that? I hate seeing that. You're an idiot. Why would you put that out there? Here's what I'll tell you is, if you have something to say, there is somebody in your shoes that you do not know that is waiting to hear from you. Absolutely. So what happens is you go through this evolution, you're doing it immediately to people that are closest to you. I don't know why that's the way it is. It's just the way it is. The people closest to you will sabotage you first. They're going to call you. They're going to text you. They're going to say mean things to you. You need to get past that and just push that aside and make a list of the negative and the positive and move them out. It could be your parents. See, this is where Gary gets into this screw your parents thing. It could be your parents. It could be your spouse. It could be your best friend. You need to push that aside. If it's your spouse and you love them, please bring them with you. Like, do your best to involve them. Don't just say screw you. But the other people, those naysayers are going to go. But what you're doing is you're making emotional and spiritual room for the good people to come in that you have not met yet. The people that are out there waiting to hear your message are going to get there. You just have to keep going every day. Whether it's one person sending you a text, a message, a DM, or a customer, like, you're going to have a balance of the naysayers go, and then the people that are reciprocating, that get your value and your message, are going to continue to stack on. That happens almost immediately. Over like 90 days, you'll see a big swing, and you just have to have the emotional fortitude to keep going. You have to know that this passion and this drive about what you're building is bigger than the greater net sum of the naysayers, because then once you get that, your taste for it will get bigger. It'll get bigger. You'll reach bigger things. You'll launch bigger things. You'll help more people. And like Tyler and I, our goal is to help just so many people. The more I get, the more I give. So I just keep compounding these things into building bigger things that help more people to have a bigger reach. So that's where you'll get, as you get into that level of, then what you notice is you have this disproportionate amount of amazing humans around you that were complete strangers a year ago, that are all like behind you trying to help you be successful.
And you get to a point, and I'm sure you know this feeling of, like, you almost enjoy that part. Like, you almost enjoy when people start questioning and people start calling you out on different things. You're like, oh yes. You're like, I am on the right track right now.
That's right.
So-and-so
just
called
an
me
indicator.
Up. Exactly.
That's an indicator you're doing the right thing.
Exactly. I love when Andy Frisella talks about when he first started doing a lot of speaking, and his friends were like, what do you think of the next Tony Robbins? He's like, would that be a bad thing? Do you know how much money Tony Robbins makes and how much impact he makes every single year? Like, no, I don't think but would that be a bad thing? And man, I've had so many of those circumstances over these last 14 months, putting myself out there. And it's just, it'll never, the whole Gary V, like, don't care what other people think. You'll never not care what other people think.
Yep, I'm human, dude.
It will always it will always affect you, but it can't affect your actions. It can't affect your ambition and what you set out to do. And that's the most important thing, man. So how do you want to wrap this up? With building a personal brand, we've told them how to create that first product from nothing. We've told them once we've got that product, how to go through those steps of getting it out there. How do you want to button this up?
Let's leave it with the story. Okay. There's a CVS by my house I go to. It's by my in-laws' house, and we go there. We go there quite a bit. And every time I go into the CVS, they have a sign that says we're hiring. We're now hiring for part-time people. It's like 29 hours a week, which is right under the bare minimum of like full-time, so they don't have to pay the benefits. And the hourly wage on it is like $12 to $15 an hour. And I see that sign, and I've done posts about that sign and what does that mean and like time to value and how many hours would it take. Plus you don't have to have insurance. You got to buy insurance. And it ends up being, $6-7 an hour for your time. And when I look at that, the lady was telling me a story. I was checking out and the lady goes, I found a receipt on the floor the other day. It's funny the people that use the ATM who just let their receipts drop. And there was a receipt where the guy had $26,000 in his checking account. Can you believe that? He had $26,000 in his checking account. Like, that's more than I make in a year almost. And I said, well, how does that make you feel? And she goes, well, she's an older lady. She's probably 64, 65. And she goes, well, I guess it's just the way that it is. And I said, that's not the way that it has to be. And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, do you have the internet? She says, yep. And I said, I clearly see you have an iPhone. Do you know how to navigate the iPhone? She says, yep. I said, do you buy stuff on Amazon? She said, I sure do. I said, you ever used eBay? She said, yeah, a couple times. I said, do you know you could use that same phone and walk over to a Goodwill or a thrift shop or a TJ Maxx or a Ross Dress for Less, find things on the discount bin that are $2 to $3 that are selling across the United States for $12, $15 and make yourself $10 to $12 per item if you want to put the time in. I could tell you an extra $1,000 a week would absolutely, or an extra $1,000 a month would completely change the trajectory of your thought process. Yeah. Her response to me was, that sounds like a lot of work. What we're talking about is it's not just going to happen. And there's a great quote by Tony Robbins that our buddy Sean Whalen really pushed hard on me when I was going through some adversity is, it's not until the fear of change becomes greater than the change itself that you actually do anything different. And when you're tired of your specific circumstance, it's got to outweigh. You got to be so tired of it that you actually get up to go do something. And until that time comes, you're going to just coast. Yeah. So if you're really interested in doing the stuff that we've said and the tools and the kind of tactics that we've talked about today, it's not going to come to you. You have to get up and go do it. And at the end of the day, after you sleep, if you slept 8 hours a day, worked 40 hours a week, and spent 4 hours, like when you look at all the time that you spend, you still have 40 hours a week to do whatever. Like, where are you spending your free time, and how much time is it going to take for you to start to put some of this money and some of this time and energy and your resources to work? Warren Buffett says the average his philosophy on it is the average millionaire has 7 sources of income. So if you're not making $1 million a year based on what you're doing currently in your current position, how much of these other little side things can you get going that could do 6 figures here, 5 figures here to really start to add up? It adds up, but you just have to get the process right. And that process you can use for anything once you put the work into it.
Absolutely, man. And what I know is that people will always make time for the things that are important to them. People will always make time. And, man, I want to just close this out by thanking you for your time, man, because you spent now on these 2 episodes a significant amount of time, and that's our most valuable asset. And so I cannot thank you enough for being on the BreadWinner podcast. It means a lot to me personally, but it means a lot to the viewers because someone just heard that story, and I promise you, it was that little kick, that little spark, that little extra push that they needed to tell themselves, you know what, man, he's right. I've been playing for too long, and I need to actually get in the game, man. And so I appreciate you. I hope everybody got something out of this that is tactical that they can go implement, and whether that is creating that new product on that side hustle that they want to add, or whether they've already got the product and they want to go ahead and implement these processes that you just very clearly laid out, man. I hope this impacted somebody, and that's the only reason why we would take an hour on what is today, Tuesday, to get this thing out, man. But man, I appreciate you. I am looking forward to Meltdown in the Desert, and we'll get some people more information about that. And man, I just appreciate everything you do and just the energy that you bring every time I hear you speak, man.
Oh, dude, like I said, brother, I'm honored. It's people like you and the people that are within my network that are within our friends group that continue to keep me motivated to keep going. And you know, if just one person got anything out of this message today, man, it was absolutely worth every minute spent. So thanks again, man. I appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Well, I can assure you one did because that's me, but we'll go for two. How about that?
Love it.
With that, guys, that is the BreadWinner podcast, and this was part 2 with Kolby K. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button and leave us a review and let us know how this particular episode impacted your life. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the BreadWinner podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and leave a rating on iTunes. For a chance to be on the show, send a screenshot of your iTunes rating to @TylerHarris page on Instagram, where he'll pick one person every single week. See you next time on the BreadWinner podcast.